Hi guys, today we're looking at the Revell pilots and ground crew from the Royal Air Force for World War II. These figures are in 172 and were released in 2009. Looking at that though, you can see lovely artwork on the front of it. A lot of the early, or should I say mid to late 90s artwork by Revell I really don't like, but this is very, very tasty, I must say. Nice detail, really gives a good impression of the what figures are going to be within the box and the poses that they can be manipulated into. These particular figures are multi-pose or whatever you want to call it. There's kind of some assembly required, but they're a nice, tasty set of figures. I think myself that they're probably originally done by Preezer or Prizer, and even though they're 172, they are maybe a little bit tall to scale, marginally, but of course obviously there's variances in brands anyway, so you know it's not too bad. But one thing I will say is if you are fitting these into aircraft, some of the pilot figures, just be careful just to do a little bit of a kind of a test fitting first before you decide to commit to the super glue or anything like that, because there might need to be a little bit of shaving done here and there or trimming, just to make sure you have clearance from a leg or head perspective in that situation. But other than that, they're pretty decent. Now, as you can see, the box that I have there is rather tatty, and how we came across this was myself and my young lad. If you've seen our other videos, one of the most recent ones we've done is the first phase of a project where we're building a Matchbox PBY-4 to Privateer, and we needed some crew for it because we had actually utilised the crew out of that a couple of years ago for another aircraft, which subsequently got damaged, and we've kind of lost the crew. Well, actually I did manage to find two of them, but there was some waist gunners and turret gunners needed, so we were assigned in a store in Limerick, which is close to me here in Tipperary, in a place called the Crescent Shopping Centre, and we managed to come across this box of figures in a store called the Art and Hobby Shop or Art and Hobby Store. We were looking in their figure section and they didn't have anything, and the young lad, being a young lad, pulled out a drawer that was at the bottom of the stand and located these. And in fairness to the staff there, we actually got a discount of about 30 to 40% because they were old stock and the box was damaged and so on and so forth. So, you know, big thank you to those guys because they really kind of helped the project along. So looking at the box there, as you can see, released in 2009, you have 25 figures with various poses. I mean, as I say, with these things you can manipulate them in various different ways. Artwork on the back, again as usual, denotes the Revell colour scheme, which is fair enough, that's no problem there. Just basic air crew sort of a scenario. You're looking at kind of browns and kind of a light blue, or what's that, R.A.F. blue I think is the Humbrol version of it, and some yellow for the Mae West Life Vest there, and that's that, fairly straightforward. The box itself comes with your usual warnings. What is that? Zu ihrer Sicherheit, Achtung nur für Kinder über 8 Jahre. Right, okay, which basically translates as, you know, 8 years of age, don't swallow these things. Fair enough. The sprue itself, we'll just move the box out of the way here momentarily. Sprue itself, as you see, multitude of figures there, various poses, some ground crew guys there, pilots. Sculpt is actually very, very nice on these. They're very clear, and if I could just get this thing to cooperate, maybe if we go down a little bit further, I think you can kind of see there. They're pretty good. There's various, there's some parachute packs. There's a multitude of arms and heads there. You can kind of interplay a small bit there. Even to be honest with you, some of these figures, like these guys, the kind of the ground crew guys with that, I don't know what you call that, service cap or whatever it is, they could be incorporated into army units if you were converting for other things. So, you know, nice little bit of variance there. Let's say not a huge amount of other poses other than that. As I say, it's 10 or so poses, but that's fine because I mean they are only air crew, and the detail on these guys, it really is quite nice. Now these, you know, they wouldn't be something you'd be buying every day of the week from a modelling perspective. They're fairly specific to a particular job, so from that viewpoint I would say, you know, if it's a diorama you're doing, these would be absolutely ideal, because some of the poses, as you saw on the box art there, would suit that particular kind of a scenario quite well. Now, as I say, we've only painted up 4 of them, and in fact, I'll just show you here if I could. We haven't really done much with the poses because, as I say, this particular guy is actually going to be the waist gunner, or one of the waist gunners on this privateer we're working on. And all I did was give him a very basic, quite literally lick of the paintbrush, and once it was dry, a quick rub over of the null and oil or null and oil by Citadel that I use on everything, just to give it a little bit of depth of figure. I mean, to be honest with you, if you're familiar with that particular Matchbox kit, you'll realise that through that thick plastic glass, whatever it is, you really won't be able to see the figures very well anyway. It's just to have some sort of representation there. I'll probably have to trim his legs a small bit to get him to fit in kind of at a respectable height, because they're a little bit taller than the Matchbox figures. But as I say, even with the very most basic and rudimentary of paint jobs, you can see there's actually a nice little bit of detail on these figures. As I say, I barely did anything with it at all, literally just threw a quick bit of paint on it, and that was it. There's another pose there. This guy is supposed to be kind of sitting. He looks like he's trying to do the Jarsden, but he's actually kind of supposed to be leaning against a table or something like that. His legs are actually crossed in that scenario. But a nice little pose if you were doing some diorama stuff, I have to say. Details on the face and goggles and stuff is quite good. Quite like it. Uniform's quite good. Now these are R.A.F. figures, and even though we're putting it into a US Air Force or US Navy aircraft, as I say, we just were short of figures, so we're utilising these. Here are the guys who are going to be in the turret. Again, just we haven't even put the arms on this particular guy. I will do once I fit him into the turret, just to see, because those are all Matchbox kits, a little bit of a tight squeeze. But nice little figures, and handy for that very purpose, to be honest with you. If you were short of crew, or you're trying to maybe replace air crew with some of those older kits, I think it's some of the Airfix ones, the crew were pretty abysmal. So these guys would suit well, and I mean, you'd get away with using them for pretty much any Allied Air Force, really. I mean, obviously they're specifically R.A.F., but you could chance your arm, and you'd get away with it, I imagine, anyway. To be honest, as far as I know, Revell didn't do a US Air Force version of these guys, and the few that I've seen out there from the poses that I would require, are quite expensive. They're up around 20 and 25 euros for some of them, to be resin or white metal, and they're quite nice and all the rest of it. But as I say, I got these for pretty much next to nothing, thanks to those guys in that store. So again, a big thank you to those art and hobby shop staff. Anyway, so that's a quick review on the Revell pilots and ground crew for the Royal Air Force World War II. I would suggest that if you required pilots for some sort of a project, you could go a lot worse than picking up these guys. They're quite handy. We're quite happy with them. So if you'd like and subscribe and check out our other videos, and the project which this particular crew are being used for, we'll have a second part and a third part coming up very soon. The project is moving along quite nicely from the initial stages, so it's the young lad's kind of first major project that he's undertaking, and I'm overseeing it and doing some of the complicated bits. But as I say, like and subscribe if you would. He and I would greatly appreciate that, and we'll be back to you with another review fairly shortly. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.